My sister's life was a train wreck I couldn't stop watching, but when she started derailing mine, I lost it. Her husband's shadow loomed over us both, yet she thought she could fix my marriage while hers burned. I'm Sarah, 32, married to David for 5 years, and until recently I thought we were solid. Not perfect, nobody is, but we had a rhythm. Late night talks over cheap wine, lazy Sundays binge-watching old sitcoms, and a shared dream of starting a family someday. But Emily, my older sister, couldn't leave us alone. She'd call at 2 a.m., sobbing about her husband, Mark, and his latest outburst, screaming, throwing things, or worse, disappearing for days. Then in the same breath, she'd lecture me on how to keep David happy, as if I were one tantrum away from losing him. It was maddening. She was drowning in her own mess but kept tossing me her life preserver, insisting I needed it more. Emily and I were close growing up despite our differences. She was the wild one, always chasing chaos while I craved stability. When she met Mark at 25, I saw the red flags. His temper, his need to control, the way he'd belittle her in front of us. But she married him anyway, swearing he'd change. 7 years later, she was still waiting, and I was still picking up the pieces. I'd drive to their apartment after his blow-ups, hold her while she cried, and beg her to leave. "I can't," she'd say. "He needs me." It was like watching someone cling to a sinking ship, refusing the lifeboat. Meanwhile, David and I were navigating our own struggles. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years with no luck. The doctor's visits, the tests, the endless waiting, it wore us down. David started working longer hours, and I buried myself in my job as a graphic designer, sketching away the stress. We weren't perfect, but we were honest. Or so I thought. Emily's constant meddling made me question everything. "Don't let David get too comfortable," she'd say, sipping my coffee uninvited. "Men leave if you don't keep things exciting." I'd laugh it off at first, but her words wormed into my head, planting doubts I didn't need. It started small. She'd show up at our house unannounced, offering advice on everything from my cooking to how often David and I fought. "You're too hard on him," she'd say when I vented about his late nights. Or, "You should dress up more. Mark says men notice that stuff." Mark, the guy who'd once locked her out of their apartment for forgetting his beer order. Yet she quoted him like he was some marriage guru. I'd bite my tongue, not wanting to hurt her, but each visit left me seething. David, bless him, stayed patient. "She's your sister," he'd say. "She's just trying to help." But I could see it wearing on him too, the way her chaos spilled into our home, like a storm we couldn't escape. The breaking point came last month. It was a Friday night, and David and I were finally having a date night, something we hadn't done in months. I'd cooked his favorite lasagna, and we were halfway through a bottle of red when the doorbell rang. Emily stood there, mascara streaking her face, her voice shaking. "Mark threw my phone," she said. "Can I stay here?" I let her in, of course. What else could I do? But as we sat on the couch, her sobs turned into a lecture. "You're so lucky, Sarah. David's perfect. Don't screw it up by being so intense." Intense? Me? I was the one holding her together while her husband trashed her life. David excused himself, sensing the tension, but Emily kept going. "You need to loosen up," she said, gesturing at my yoga pants and messy bun. "Men don't like women who nag." That was it. Something snapped. "Emily," I said, my voice low, "you don't get to tell me how to live my marriage when you're too scared to leave your own." Her eyes widened like I'd slapped her. Maybe I had. The room went silent, and for the first time I didn't care. I was done being her punching bag. She stayed the night, but things were different after that. She avoided me for days, sending passive-aggressive texts about family loyalty. I felt guilty but also free. Like I'd finally said what I'd been swallowing for years. David, though, was worried. "She's your sister," he said again, softer this time. "You can't cut her off." But could I keep letting her chaos bleed into our lives? I wasn't sure. The next week, Emily called, acting like nothing happened. "Can I come over?" she asked, her voice bright fake. Against my better judgment, I said yes. She arrived with a bottle of wine and a smile, but I wasn't fooled. "I'm sorry about last time," she said, pouring me a glass. "I just want you to be happy." I nodded, but the words felt hollow. She wasn't sorry, she was deflecting. And then she started again. "David seemed stressed. Are you guys okay?" I gripped my glass so hard I thought it might break. "Emily," I said, "stop. Just stop." She blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, the words I'd held back for years spilling out. "You can't keep doing this. You stay with Mark, let him ruin your life, and then come here and act like you know what's best for me. You don't. You're not saving my marriage, you're breaking it." Her face crumpled, but I kept going. "I love you, but I can't be your escape anymore. You need to fix your own life before you try to fix mine." She left without a word, and I haven't heard from her since. Part of me feels like I betrayed her, like I abandoned the sister I swore to protect. But another part, the part that's been carrying her weight for years, feels lighter. David and I are talking more now, being honest about our struggles. We're not perfect, but we're trying. And for the first time, I'm not letting Emily's chaos define us. But the story doesn't end there. A week ago, I got a call from our mom. "Emily's in trouble," she said, her voice shaking. "Mark, he's gone too far this time." My heart sank. I'd pushed her away, drawn my line, but could I really turn my back when she needed me most? The choice wasn't easy, and what happened next tested everything I thought I knew about love, family, and standing my ground. Mom's voice on the phone was a knife to my chest. "Sarah, you need to come. Emily's at the hospital." My mind raced. Mark. It had to be him. I'd spent years begging her to leave, and now what? He'd finally crossed the line even she couldn't ignore? I grabbed my keys, my heart pounding, torn between fury and fear. David looked at me, his eyes soft but steady. "Go," he said. "I'll be here when you get back." The hospital was a blur of antiseptic smells and flickering lights. Mom met me in the waiting room, her face pale. "She's got a broken arm," she whispered. "She says she fell. But Sarah, it wasn't a fall." My stomach churned. I wanted to scream to find Mark and make him pay, but first I needed to see her. Emily was in a small room, her arm in a cast, her eyes hollow. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, like the fight had drained out. "Sarah," she croaked. "I didn't mean for this." I sat beside her, my anger melting into something heavier, grief. "Why didn't you leave him?" I asked, my voice barely steady. She looked away, tears spilling. "I thought I could fix him. I thought if I loved him enough." Her words trailed off, and I saw it then. The weight of her choices crushing her. I wanted to shake her, to yell that love doesn't fix monsters, but I just held her hand. "You don't have to go back," I said. "You can stay with us. We'll figure it out." She shook her head. "I can't keep dragging you into this." It was the first time she'd acknowledged her chaos spilling over, and it hit me hard. Maybe my outburst had gotten through. Or maybe the issue arm, the hospital bed, was the wake-up call I couldn't give her. When we got her discharged, I took her to our house. David had cleaned the guest room, stocked the fridge, and left a note. "We're here for you." Could have cried. Emily settled in, quiet, like she was afraid to take up space. Over the next few days, I watched her closely, waiting for the old patterns, her need to meddle, to deflect her pain onto my life. But she didn't. She was different, subdued, like she was finally seeing the wreckage she'd ignored for years. One night over tea, she opened up. "I kept telling you how to fix your marriage because I couldn't face mine," she said, staring into her mug. "I thought if I could help you, it'd mean I wasn't failing." Her honesty floored me. All this time, her advice wasn't about might, was her way of coping, of pretending she had control. "I'm sorry," she said, and I believed her. But healing wasn't instant. Emily filed a restraining order against Mark. and I helped her find a lawyer. The process was grueling: court dates, police reports, the constant fear he'd show up. David and I took turns staying with her, making sure she felt safe. It wasn't easy. There were nights when her panic attacks woke us, when she'd sob about how she'd ruined everything. I'd hold her, reminding her she was enough, that she deserved better. But I was struggling too. The stress of her crisis on top of our own David's long hours, our fertility struggles test us. One evening David and I fought. Really fought. "I can't keep doing this," he said, his voice tight. "I love you, Sarah, but we're losing ourselves trying to save her." He wasn't wrong. Emily's presence, her trauma, was a constant weight. I felt torn, loyalty to my sister clashing with my need to protect my marriage. "I know," I said, my throat tight. "But I can't abandon her now." We sat in silence, the distance between us aching. The next morning I found Emily packing. "I'm going to Mom's," she said. "You and David need your space." I protested, but she held up a hand. "You were right to call me out, Sarah. I've been selfish. I need to stand on my own." It was the strongest I'd seen her in years. She hugged me, her cast awkward between us, and promised to keep in touch. With Emily gone, David and I started rebuilding. We went to therapy, something we'd put off for too long. It wasn't magic, but it helped us really talk about the baby we hadn't conceived, the pressure we'd put on each other, the way Emily's chaos had exposed our cracks. We laughed more, fought less, and started dreaming again. A trip to Italy, maybe. Or adopting a dog. Small steps, but they felt like hope. Emily, meanwhile, was trying. She got a job at a bookstore, started therapy, and joined a support group for women leaving abusive relationships. She'd call to check in, not to meddle, but to share her progress. "I'm learning to be alone," she said once, her voice steady. "It's scary, but it's mine." I was proud, but I kept my distance, letting her find her way. Then Mark showed up. Not physically, thank God for the restraining order, but through a letter. He begged her to come back, swore he'd changed. I found Emily reading it, her hands shaking. "He sounds so sincere," she whispered. My heart sank. After everything, was she slipping back? I said, "You know who he is. You've seen it." She nodded, tears falling, and tore the letter in half. "I'm done," she said. And she meant it. Months passed and Emily grew stronger. She moved into her own apartment, a tiny place with plants she named after book characters. She invited us over for dinner, and for the first time in years we laughed like sisters, not survivors of her storm. David squeezed my hand under the table, and I knew we'd made it through. But the scars lingered. I'd catch myself bracing for her next crisis, or questioning if David and I were truly okay. Trust, once cracked, takes time to mend. And Emily, though healing, carried her own ghosts. She'd flinch at loud noises, second-guess her worth. We were all learning, her to rebuild. Me to set boundaries, David to balance love with limits. Looking back, I don't regret snapping. It was ugly, but it woke us both up. Emily needed to face her reality, and I needed to protect my own. I learned that love doesn't mean carrying someone's weight forever. It means giving them the strength to carry their own. And Emily? She's still figuring it out, but she's trying, and that's enough. Now I'm left wondering, where's the line between loyalty and self-preservation? Was I right to push her away, or should I have held on tighter? If you've ever faced a toxic family tie, or had to choose between helping someone and saving yourself, what would you do? Share your thoughts. What's justice here, and what's just human?